back to 3 seconds. At this point, DS was in a pretty decent spot. It helped punish tunneling, but didn't punish other killers just for playing the game normally. It still wasn't perfect though. While DS was only active for 1 minute after being unhooked, that was pretty much 1 minute of straight God mode, as nothing other than time would disable Decisive, meaning survivors could get unhooked, run to safety, heal to full, and then hop on a gen, or break the killer's ruin totem, and if the killer didn't realise that this survivor had recently been unhooked, they'd end up getting stunned anyway, even without the intention of tunneling. The other issue was that with the stun duration now being buffed to account for enduring, any killers without enduring would take an almighty hit to their pressure, far too big of a hit. So to get rid of this huge difference, 2 months later, the devs nerfed enduring so that it would only affect pallet stun durations. No longer would it affect DS. One slight issue though. Decisive Strike's stun duration still remained at its previous value of 5 seconds, which was specifically for enduring. So now every killer that got hit with it would have to take that almighty stun duration, enduring or not. This update started to make DS somewhat of a problem perk again, as increasingly, killers who weren't tunneling were getting hit by it more and more, whether it be getting lots of fast kills or survivors getting craftier to force value during that 60-second window. Nonetheless, it was still in a significantly better spot than before. It would be another 2 years before Decisive Strike would receive its next set of nerfs. On the 30th of March 2021, DS was nerfed with the addition of new restrictions that disable the perk if the user is doing things that indicate they are not being tunneled, such as repairing gens, healing, and breaking totems. Decisive Strike once again found itself in a good spot, with the stun duration still being high at 5 seconds, any tunneling killers would be punished severely, whereas the new restrictions helped ensure only tunnelers took this almighty stun. Survivors could enjoy a tunnel-free experience, and killer players could simply not tunnel if they didn't want to take the stun. Fast forward to the 19th of July 2022, 3 entire years after making the promise of bringing Decisive Strike's stun timer back to 3 seconds if enduring got nerfed, and over an entire year after that enduring nerf, they finally made good on that promise, for better or for worse, bringing the stun duration down from 5 seconds to 3 seconds, alongside disabling the perk once the last gen is finished, which is the current iteration of the perk at the time of this video. Which leaves us with one question. How do you feel about Decisive Strike nowadays? I personally think that the perk could do with a tiny buff, not to the stun duration, but to simply reduce the amount of stumble survivors get after using it and jumping off the killer's shoulder, so that just a bit more distance can be gained without keeping the killer stunned for longer. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you so much for sticking to the end. If you have any other things you'd like me to discuss in a similar
What the fuck you mean DBD meme perk? Hey, listen here, dog. Fire up is a fire perk. Until recently, they freaking nerfed that shit. That shit is trash now. But fire up was a freaking amazing perk. Freaking make any killer freaking a speed demon. Freaking Ferrari. Yo, people would gen rush, and then they would end up realizing they fucked up because then they done made the killer freaking travel across the map in like freaking 5 seconds because now he fast as fuck. They will freaking kill 3 gens and realize they done fucked up. That man over here freaking speeding.
While it's practically guaranteed that by now you've heard of the Nerf pig meme and still hear it to this day, there's another meme in a very similar vein that's been practically lost to time. Before Behaviour decided that poor Amanda is destined to be public enemy number 1 and then launched a multiple year-long attack of nerfs so intense that her reputation is completely ruined to this day. In fact, before the pig was even in the game, someone, or should I say something else, held the title of the Nerf meme, but for a completely different reason to the pig, and that something is Fire Up. Our story starts all the way back in patch 1.8.0 on the 26th of October 2017 with the release of Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street chapter.
They used to butcher Freddy so much. Every time Freddy was doing good, they were freaking nerf him. They were just
killer in
nerf
DBD history, the ugliest survivor in
They would
DBD
buff
history,
him, then they
and
would nerf him.
various
Then they would buff him,
controversies.
then they
But
would
this
nerf
video
him. Then
isn't
they would
about
buff
Freddy,
him, then they would nerf him.
rather
Then they would
his
nerf him.
perks.
Then they would
Every
buff
character
him.
comes with 3 teachable perks,
It was
with
the
Freddy's
worst.
being Blood Warden, Remember Me, and Fire Up.
Could never
Remember
play
Me was
Freddy because
initially
they would
very
just
popular
buff and then
saw
nerf him
lots of
every
use as
time.
what was effectively a slowdown perk, but instead of slowing gens, it slowed down the door opening speed. Either way, it kept survivors in the match for longer, so close enough. Although it took a while, its usage did eventually fall off, thanks to a nerf reducing how much it slows the gates by, and then a second nerf that makes the obsession completely immune to its effects. Since then, it's had its slowdown increased again multiple times, but it's still far too risky of a perk due to it potentially having literally zero effect whatsoever if the obsession is still alive. Blood Warden had a very strong debut as many players didn't know about it and ended up getting caught off guard and being blocked in. While survivors very quickly learned to play around it via 99%ing the gates, it still does see semi-regular use to this day, although very rarely coming into effect outside of meme builds like the nurse going AFK behind the exit gates until endgame, then attempting to win the match entirely with 0 gens remaining. And then there was Fire Up, a perk so weak that almost everyone in the community forgot it existed practically the day it released. Seriously, you'd think that Freddy only came with 2 perks considering how little anybody spoke about it. So what did it do? Just like its modern day version, it would buff all of your action speeds, ramping up in intensity as more generators
And your
get
freaking
completed.
movement
Actions
speed.
being basically anything that locks you in an animation, unable to move. This means faster pallet breaking speed, faster gen kicking speed, faster vault speed, and faster pickup and drop speed. On paper, this is an amazing perk. Stacking Fire Up's faster pallet break speed with brutal
You
strength
forgot
was
one
no
and
doubt
freaking movement
everybody's
speed. That
first
shit
thought.
used to make
And
you a
in
Ferrari.
even bigger news, it was the first ever killer perk in DBD history to increase your vaulting speed. But in reality, Fire Up was absolutely awful. Not really kicking in until the game was practically over and doing almost nothing even when it was
That's when
fully
the game
charged.
will
The original
begin.
version of Fire Up worked on a
Put
token
that pressure
system
out.
instead of today's stacking system, with each gen that pops granting you 1 token. 1 token gave you nothing. Okay, so at the start of the match, Fire Up did nothing, and after the first gen popped, it still gave you nothing. 2 tokens gave you 10% faster action speed. Nice. This is a decent starting point. If the increments stay like this, we might have something worth using. 3 tokens gave you 12% faster action speed. So our speed is going to be increasing in precise increments of fuck all. 4 tokens gave you 14% faster action speed, and 5 tokens gave you nothing once again. So realistically, Fire Up did nothing for half the match, and when it finally kicked in, it amounted to nothing more than a weaker version of Brutal Strength. Of course, when it first released, people had the bright idea of pairing the only vault speed perk with the only vault speed killer, who was Myers at the time, for synergy, but quickly gave up when they saw that Fire Up just didn't really add anything of value. What was the point in using something that provided no value when you could use something that provides lots of value? Like today's sponsor, Surfshark. Keep yourself safe online with Surfshark's suite of Surfshark Island with Surfshark's Extra. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. While the overwhelming majority of the community quickly disregarded Fire Up, and quite rightly so, not everybody was ready to give up on it just yet. You see, unlike other trash tier perks like Territorial Imperative, which were just completely terrible in both idea and execution, completely beyond saving without a complete replacement effect, Fire Up was quite the opposite. Yes, Fire Up was absolutely awful too, so they did have that in common, but making it a good perk was actually very simple. A simple increase in numbers would easily make it worthwhile. Outside of its strength, or lack thereof, the general idea of the perk was very unique and interesting. The idea of gradually getting more powerful as the match progresses was captivating, and it allowed for many potential synergies, like the previously mentioned Brutal Strength or Freddy's other perks, keeping the survivors trapped in the match when you're at your strongest. But that was just potential. With its current numbers, it was still an absolutely awful perk. But due to that perfect combination of being both weak and interesting, it became a go-to meme perk whenever playing as the usual culprits like Sharp Hand Joe and Bubba, but also got used when memeing on any other killer. While Fire Up was initially completely forgotten about, it slowly but surely started to creep its way onto people's radars. Not due to any buffs or new strategies people found with it, no. It purely earned a reputation as the meme perk that people only use because it's funny how badly Behavior blundered a genuinely good idea. Of course, whenever a meming killer won, it was clearly only for one reason: Fire Up carrying them. Because of course, Fire Up is literally the strongest perk ever made. It clearly needs a nerf. And thus, GG Nerf Fire Up was born. Not because it found itself getting nerfed a million times like the pig did, but because it was so weak that players would sarcastically claim that it's OP, perhaps even hoping that if it was mocked hard enough for long enough, maybe the devs would eventually buff it. Don't forget, this was old Behavior we're talking about here. Unless they had a serious kick up the arse from the community, they were not going to do anything. Most of the time they still wouldn't do anything even if they did get a kick up the arse, but you get the point. So in the meantime, GG Nerf Fire Up would live on, serving as a constant staple of meme and troll builds, with the levels of both irony and sarcasm eventually soaring so high that players wouldn't just say to nerf Fire Up if the killer won, but also if the killer lost. But by some kind of miracle, in record speed by Behavior standards back then, Fire Up would receive a much needed change. A year and a half after Fire Up's release, in the PTB for patch 2.6.0 on the 6th of March 2019, Fire Up would receive a change. Nerf changed Fire Up's functionality from a token system to a stacking system. Each stack grants 3% action speed bonus. In a move that genuinely nobody could have predicted, Behavior actually went and nerfed Fire Up. Don't get me wrong, they already had a reputation for nerfing some of the already weakest things in the game, but that normally only happened as a knee-jerk reaction a month or two after release, not an entire year and a half later. Now, that being said, it's worth noting that the devs thought they were buffing Fire Up with this change, since the perk would now max out at 15% action speed bonus instead of the previous 14, which was literally indiscernible. But due to the new stacking system with the perk now maxing out after all 5 gens have popped instead of the previous 4, you now have to lose more gens to get the same benefit as before. Commence a new avalanche of Fire Up memes. Despite the fact that this PTB literally included an entire new chapter, being the Plague, the backlash about the Fire Up nerf was severe enough that they couldn't just leave it in that state. So, 2 weeks later when the patch went onto live servers, Fire Up had been changed once again. Buff. Each stack now grants 4% action bonus, maxing out at 20%. Okay, now Fire Up had actually received a buff. A tiny one mind you, but still a buff nonetheless. That being said, the change was still too small to actually have any impact, and Fire Up still remained as a weak perk. At this point in time there was Bamboozle now, so at least there's even more opportunity for synergy alongside Brutal Strength. But again, outside of full W key meme builds, Fire Up still saw no unironic use. But Fire Up slowly began to lose its meme status regardless. Partially because it wasn't as aggressively dog shit as it used to be, but mainly because a new victim had taken the spotlight. The pig. I've already made an entire video on the torment Behavior have put that poor lady through, but one thing's for sure. The devs had a serious vendetta against that character.
Pig, when Pig first came out, yo, Pig was a menace, I ain't gonna lie. But freaking, they did butcher Pig like crazy. I don't even know why. I don't know why they hate freaking Pig so fucking much, but they freaking butcher Pig. Pig used to be so strong that Pig used to be able to freaking, her head traps, she should put the head traps on you. And even if you tried to leave, you could power up all the Jennies. If you did not get that head trap off your head was going to explode. If you left the match through the gates, your head would explode. That freaking head trap that she had used to be so strong. Nowadays, you could just straight up walk out the match with a head trap on, but freaking back then, you freaking walk past some exit gates with a head trap on, your head was going to explode. Like, you literally couldn't. You had to get that junk off. And sometimes you would just keep getting unlucky trying to get that junk off, and your head would just explode.
This very quickly shifted people's association of the word nerf from GG Nerf Fire Up to Nerf Pig. But don't get me wrong, Fire Up was still a bad perk, and it would stay that way for a very long time. It wouldn't be until an almighty 5 years and 8 months later, on the 8th of January 2025, in patch 8.5.0,
It's so
when
rare to
Fire Up
see a
would receive
freaking
a new
pig killer
change.
though these
Buff
days.
increased each stack to 6% action speed instead of the previous 4%. And with that buff of 2% per
It
stack,
don't even
Fire
exist
Up
no
went from
more.
being a bad perk to a genuinely solid perk. With so many more perks to synergize with, like Dark Arrogance and Superior Anatomy, alongside serviceable numbers by itself without the addition of other supplementary perks, Fire Up has finally found itself in a decent spot. It may have taken about 8 years, but the perk finally found itself in the position it should have.
This whole video low-key a meme, cause he low-key didn't even mention how Fire Up used to give you actually a freaking speed increase. That shit actually, he didn't even freaking mention it. That junk used to give you a freaking speed increase baseline. Well, he did mention it, but he ain't freaking. That junk actually did come in handy. I ain't gonna lie. That shit was actually pretty strong. That shit was pretty strong. If you knew how to, if you ran the right perks with that, you would be able to get to a gen. You'll be able to cycle all 3 gens and lock them all down because your character would be so fucking fast. You'll just be running laps and nobody could progress a gen because you would just keep freaking touching each gen. That junk used to be so super strong. It was a good perk, and now they done freaking butchered it because they don't remove the speed increase from it, which sucks. Poor perk, it's gone. It still got its benefits though. It's still a decent perk. It's just not as amazing. It's freaking mid. It's just not as good as it used to be. That fell from greatness. Alright, I'm gonna end the stream here. It's been 12 hours. My freaking eyes are dead. I'm gonna probably sleep until freaking 3 in the morning. I'll be honest, I'm probably gonna be knocked the heck out. But I will catch y'all later. Good stream, long stream. I don't know when the next stream will be, considering how long the stream was. We will see though. Yeah, we got a lot of Dead by Daylight matches and a lot of escapes, a lot of dubs, freebies. We got non-bad out a lot of times too, but freaking dying on hook and giving hatch and stuff like that. We sacrificed a lot. Um, we ranked up to almost silver, I guess. What else? Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna go to sleep. I will catch y'all later. Until next time. Peace.